I have seen centuries turn to dust. The words are lost, and the glory is...
My name is Lucius. Long ago, I was a humble scribe in the shadow of the Forum Romanum's marble columns. I wore a pristine white toga, dyed from Nubian wool, and my hands were perpetually stained with ink from endless rolls of papyrus. I recorded the golden words of senators, speeches of glory, of gods smiling upon Rome, of fresh laurel wreaths crowning the Caesars. I sat beneath the blinding sun of the Capitoline, breathing air thick with incense smoke from Jupiter's temple, and fretted over petty things. Would the last scroll suffice to tally the tax lists from Egypt? Who would win the chariot races at the Circus Maximus this season? And might I be invited to a great man's banquet? That was my world. A world of gleaming marble, of warm Falernian wine sliding down the throat, of laughter echoing from feasts where poets recited verses of Aeneas and Rome's immortality. That world is dead. Not in heroic fashion, with blaring trumpets and swords flashing in the sun. No. It died slowly, like a papyrus scroll licked by fire from the edge. Letters fading, then turning to ash, then scattered by the wind without a farewell. Now, I wander its ruins, beneath the shadow of cracked columns, where weeds push through fissures like skeletal fingers rising from a grave. The Colosseum, that grand arena, once roaring with lions' growls and the cheers of 50,000 souls, is now a hollow circle of stone, where rainwater pools in murky puddles, reflecting my face. Faded, pallid, like a statue gnawed by time. I touch those walls, feeling the stone's roughness, still warm, as if the gladiator's blood seeps from the cracks. Do you hear it? The whispers from below the earth, not the wind. It's Rome, whispering from its own tomb. I am no longer the Lucius of those days. Not entirely. The Sibyl's curse changed everything. She, the woman with eyes deep as the Cumaean cave, flesh fading like withered laurel leaves, touched me. I came to her on a senator's orders, bearing golden ori to buy prophecies of bountiful harvests. She sat in a dank cavern, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and dried ink, scrolls dangling from the ceiling like flayed skin. "You seek the future?" she whispered, her voice like wind through stone crevices. "The future is not to be known, Lucius. It is a curse." She handed me her final scroll, inscribed in ancient Etruscan script, and as I read, a pain spread from my fingers to my heart, like fire slowly licking through flesh. She smiled, a lipless grin. "Now you will wander, like me, immortal but fading. Laurel will wither on your brow, and you will tell the shadows Rome kept hidden." I didn't believe it at first. I laughed, a dry, echoing cackle in the cave. How could a scholar like me, versed only in ink and beeswax, be immortal? But that night, returning to Rome, my skin began to change. At first, just faint wrinkles, like paper curled under the sun. Then my hair silvered, not with years, but with winter winds from the Tiber. I aged, then youthened, then faded, like a ghost etched on stone. Senators forgot me. My scrolls burned in purges. I witnessed Nero torch the city, flames devouring streets I once walked, and I fled, but did not die. I stood on the hill as Vesuvius erupted, ash falling like black snow on my shoulders, and I coughed, but did not suffocate. I trailed the 9th Legion into Britannia's mists, hearing their trumpets echo into silence, and I called, but no one answered. Now, 2 millennia later, I am still here, wandering, telling tales, for if I do not tell them, Those shadows will devour memory itself. Rome, Roma Eterna, the eternal city. We believed it so. Laurel fresh on the gods' brows, Caesars striding the Via Appia amid clopping hooves, the empire sprawling from Sahara sands to Caledonian fogs. We built straight roads, aqueducts channeling mountain water to the city, arenas where blood-stained desert sand. We conquered with sword and law, with statute books I copied by hand, line by line. But beneath that laurel, the green leaves veiling our heroes' heads, lay shadows. Shadows not from border barbarians, not from German tribes swinging axes in forests. No, the shadows came from within, from emperors' mad dreams, from prophets' whispers, from volcanic ash, from mists swallowing legions. The empire did not fall to external foes. It crumbled from cracks in its own stone, cracks we, like me, saw but dared not record. I wander these ruins now, touching them like the flesh of a long-dead lover. Here at the Colosseum, I recall the scent of blood, not the iron tang of blades, but sweet, metallic, mingled with gladiators' sweat and fear. The crowd's roar still echoes in my mind, though the wind carries only crow's caws. I sit on worn steps, once seats for the divine, gazing at the Tiber, now a modern trash-choked murk, but once sparkling under sun, ferrying grain ships from Egypt. Can you imagine it? A city of perfect order, bread and games for the masses, laws for the provinces, gods smiling from temples. But even then, I sensed the shadows, in senators' secret councils, murmuring of internal enemies, in my dreams, where laurel withered to ash. That is why I tell these stories, not to glorify glory, that laurel has long yellowed, not to sing of heroes in red cloaks billowing in battle winds. I speak of the shadows beneath the laurel, secrets Rome hid, wounds history veiled with time's dust. These are no fairy tales for children by the fire. They are warnings, whispers from the grave, for those who still listen. For if Rome, the invincible city, could fall, so could your empire, whatever it may be. The first secret, Nero's burning dream. When the emperor played his lyre amid the city's screams as flames devoured it, I was there. Lucius, fleeing familiar streets, turned to inferno, and I saw him, not a monster, but a boy with a crown of fire on his head. The second secret, the Sibyl's prophecy, a woman cursed with endless life but fading flesh, whispering the empire's doom from the Cumaean cave. She touched me, and now she whispers through my own lips. The third secret, the ghosts of Pompeii, ash that froze thousands mid-breath, still murmuring through volcanic dust, reminding that even gods can rage. And the final secret, the Lost Legion 9, a Roman battalion that marched into Britannia's mist and never returned, swallowed by shadow without battle, without farewell. These secrets lie not in the tidy books of great historians, Tacitus or Suetonius, writing clean ink from afar. They dwell in what I witnessed, what I touched. In whispers the wind brings to my ear across 2 millennia. I tell them not to frighten you, though those shadows terrify. I tell them so you remember, glory is a fragile veil. Beneath lies fire, curse, ash, mist. And if you listen closely, you will hear them whispering even today. Through modern winds, through monuments built on Rome's graves. The first secret, Nero's burning dream. Not a fleeting nightmare that comes and goes like morning mist on the Tiber, but a blaze that devoured the soul of Rome, and perhaps Nero's own soul, leaving only ashes and echoes whispering across 2 millennia. Later historians, like Tacitus with his sharp quill, would write of it as a royal atrocity, the mad act of a boy emperor where power twisted art into hellfire. But I, Lucius, was there, not as a distant witness scribbling from a safe library, but as an ant in the storm, fleeing through streets I once called home. I smelled the first tendrils of smoke slipping through my study window on the Palatine Hill, where I was copying tax figures from distant provinces, dry numbers on grain from Egypt, olive oil from Hispania, and gold from Nubian mines. It was a sweltering summer afternoon in 64 AD, the sun hanging like a molten orb over Rome's sky, staining terracotta rooftops red and thickening the air with dust from wagons unloading at Ostia's port. I wiped sweat from my brow, ink smearing on the papyrus under my resin-sticky fingers, and thought, in a few hours, I'll head home, sip diluted Falernian wine with bread, and forget these figures. I had no idea that mere hours later, the eternal city would begin melting beneath my feet, and one emperor's dream would turn us all to dust. Fire started near the Circus Maximus, the colossal arena where I'd sat for hours on scorching stone steps, jotting bets for chariot races, the thunder of hooves like the empire's heartbeat. The crowds roar like prayers to Jupiter. It spread from cramped wooden stalls of merchants, where Egyptian linen piled beside Indian spices, cinnamon's sharp bite and turmeric's golden gleam, parched and waiting for a careless spark from a nearby forge. Summer winds from the south blew fierce, carrying Libya's desert heat like Set's breath, the Egyptian god we'd once mocked in jest, and the flames danced like a drunken performer at Nero's feasts, licking through narrow alleys, swallowing the ramshackle wooden homes of Subura's poor. I heard the first scream, not a clear human cry, but wood cracking under heat, roof tiles crashing like Jupiter's thunderbolts in rage, metal warping in abandoned smithies. I bolted from my study, papyrus clutched tight, ink bleeding like blood across trembling fingers, and smoke billowed into Subura, the slum where folk like me, neither rich nor noble, mere cogs in the tax machine, crowded through days. The smoke's initial scent was sweet, like pine from street ovens, evoking peaceful evenings with hot loaves, but it soured to charred meat's acrid tang, human skin blistering under blaze, hair and linen smoldering black. I choked, eyes stinging, and ran, not toward any plan, but instinct, through familiar lanes now a labyrinth of fire and shadow. I ran, Lucius ran like a specter through inferno, my pristine white toga smeared gray with soot, bare feet since my sandals had long singed away. Familiar streets, Via Sacra, where I'd strolled leisurely to the Forum to file reports, inhaling floral scents from senators' gardens. Now Hades's narrow corridors, flames lapping walls like demonic tongues. Women burst from second-story windows, clutching infants wrapped in thin linen, dresses charred and clinging to blistered flesh. Children's wails mingling with panicked dogs' barks from dark alleys. An old man, likely a retired legionary with war scars crisscrossing his face and a right arm hacked off at the elbow from Actium, shoved me aside roughly to charge into a collapsing house, desperate to save his son, a 10-year-old with tousled blonde curls calling from a window. I heard him bellow, voice hoarse from smoke, "Gaius, Father's here. Then silence, heavier than the fire's roar, followed by beams crashing down, pulverizing all. I didn't stop. I couldn't. My lungs burned like swallowing embers, and I clambered up Esquilin Hill, the familiar slope where I'd once sat watching sunsets over the city, charting stars for an astrologer. Lungs searing, blood trickling from scrapes on my hands. And from that crest, from the hilltop, I beheld it. Rome ablaze. Not an ordinary blaze like summer fires we'd grown numb to, but a colossal ring of fire encircling the city like Vulcan's embrace, devouring marble temples in the Forum like a titan's tongue from Greek myths. That night, the fire raged 6 days and nights, razing 2/3 of the city, 14 districts shattered, only 4 intact in the north, where the wealthy like my senator patron fled on private boats. Thousands perished, not directly in the flames' maw, but from smoke-choken lungs like sea foam, collapsing stone walls, crushing bones, panic trampling kin in shadowed alleys where siblings clawed for escape. And Nero? He, the young emperor, just 26, with curly black locks and eyes bright as Hesperus, whom I'd seen laughing at royal banquets, reciting Greek gods' verses in a soaring falsetto like Apollo's lyre. Where was he amid this nightmare? Not fleeing like us mortals crammed on burning roads. No. I glimpsed him from afar, on a makeshift stage hastily erected on a nearby hill, his lyre, not the fiddle of later Christian tall tales, but his golden lyre, strings humming under pale, perfume-oiled fingers. He sang, voice high and quavering, of Troy's fall, the city of Aeneas, our ancestor per Virgil, incinerated by Greeks with their wooden horse. Quam dulce et decor est, he crooned, Horace's words echoing through smoke, to die for homeland and freedom. But now they rang as cruel mockery, while below, Rome's true screams swelled like an infernal symphony, infants' wails blending with neighing horses' terror and melting metal from forges. His entourage, sycophantic courtiers in purple silk cloaks and Greek artists with pale, tragic masks, clapped fervently, as if this were a Dionysian theater performance, not the empire's funeral. I stood there, mere hundreds of paces away, huddled behind a surviving stone wall, and wondered in horror. Is this his dream? The dream of a royal artist, torching debts from Parthian wars and extravagance, razing slums like Subura, where the poor huddled like rats, to build Domus Aurea, the golden house sprawling 80 hectares from Palatine to Esquilin, with an artificial lake for boating beneath a 35-meter Nero colossus, lush gardens of white peacocks and gilded fountains, steam baths with donkey milk soaks like Cleopatra's. Historians would debate for centuries. Did Nero truly set Rome ablaze? Tacitus, in his Annals, notes rumors he ordered the fire in 19 districts, even widening lanes for flames by demolishing barriers to fan winds, forging fiery corridors miles long. Suetonius, in Lives of the Caesars, claims he watched from a Palatine tower in an artist's blue robe and sang from that very stage, lyre vibrating in firelight's glow. Dio Cassius whispers of his servants, trained to ignite strategic points. But I, Lucius, need no books or a far-safe scholar's gossip from Campania. I saw his lackeys, slinking with pine torches the night before the blaze, shadows gliding alleys like underworld shades. I heard Senate murmurs, even pre-fire, of how he'd scapegoat Christians, followers of a Judean god with fish symbols and secret rites, persecuting them savagely post-disaster, burning them alive as garden torches for his domus transitoria, tearing them for beasts in makeshift arenas, lions' roars mingling with their prayers. Thus he quashed accusations, casting us new god adherents as old god's foes, sacrifices to Vulcan for fire's appeasement. But fire heeds no blame or offerings. It scorched indiscriminately. Nobles in silk or slaves in irons, Jupiter's marble temples or paupers' shacks. It consumed my scrolls too, hundreds of tax and law pages, soaring skyward like souls, blackened under blaze. After the fire, when 6 days of hell ended and Tiber rains quenched final embers, Rome lay a vast ash heap. Familiar streets mere charred stone skeletons, twisted like scorched bones. I wandered them, tattered toga soot-clad like a funeral priest's robe, smoke's scent clinging to my skin like a curse, mingling with damp earth whiffs from hasty graves. Survivors gathered at flickering pyres, sharing moldy bread from stores and watered wine from cracked amphorae, recounting losses in rasped voices. One his private library of Greek scrolls, another his children, only tiny sandals amid rubble. A third all memory of peaceful days when Rome was Roma Eterna, not this pyre. Nero returned from Annio exile, not to mourn or console, but to build, with an artist's grin and grand schemes. Domus Aurea rose from ashes like a gilded reverie. Vast man-made lake for rowing under towering Nero statue. Pearl-inlaid walls and god-painted ceilings. Dense gardens with iridescent white peacocks and dragon-spout golden fountains. Steam baths, geothermal heated, donkey-milked like Cleopatra's. He summoned plebs, vowing free homes, but these were narrower, thinner-walled wood, more flammable than ever. Taxes doubled to fund his artistic jaunts. I copied those edicts in a makeshift study, hand quaking on fresh papyrus, ink blurring from unbidden tears, wondering in despair, is Rome's glory mere fragile laurel? Verdant veil hiding mad dreams of such men. Emperors deeming themselves gods, but mere boys playing with matches. That burning dream scorched not just stone, wood, flesh. It seared trust, the glue-binding empire from far provinces to Forum Senate. Senators whispered revolt in closed sessions. Provinces like Gaul and Hispania doubting their lyre-wielding Caesar over sword. Send in less gold, more rumors. Nero fancied himself deity, Apollo reborn. Fire art's torch for remaking Rome as New Athens, theaters and verse abounding. But fire isn't art. It's pure shadow, lapping all without mercy. It warns empires, grand as straight roads and mountain-fed aqueducts, can ignite from one boy's whim. Or worse, an emperor's oversized dream outgrowing his laurel crown. I fled that blaze, hacking through flaming lanes, but it still burns in me. Each wind-borne smoke whiff to today's Colosseum, stones scarred black from it, revives lyre strains from memory, not melody sweet, but shattered dreams' laughter, unrested souls' murmurs. And you, pondering power, modern leaders with grand visions, palaces from folks' ashes, do you hear? Flames licking beneath verdant laurel, awaiting spark. But fire's just the start. Flaring hot, then cooling to ash. Some whispers burn slower, seeping flesh like curses, fade in souls before full death. They rise from earth's dark caves, from cursed women's mouths by gods themselves. The second secret, the Sibyl's prophecy. Woman of endless life, yet withering flesh like autumn leaves, murmuring empire's doom from Cumae's gloom, where future's no gift, but eternal burden. The second secret, the Sibyl's prophecy. Not a carefully preserved tome of oracles housed in the Capitoline Temple, where priests intone its verses under the flickering glow of oil lamps, their voices trembling like laurel leaves quivering in autumn winds. No, it was a living curse, whispered from the Cumaean cave, where the dank air hung heavy with the musk of primordial earth and the musty decay of ink-faded scrolls gnawed by centuries into rot like human flesh. The Sibyl, Diphobe, the woman Greek poets dubbed the voice from the underworld, was no crone with bubbling cauldrons of poison or crystal spheres unveiling hazy futures. She was destiny's visage, a warning carved in bone and sinew, her skin paling like papyrus edges licked slowly by flame. I met her, Lucius met her, on a fog-veiled morning years before Nero's conflagration, when Rome still deemed itself invincible beneath its verdant laurel veil, and her words remade me eternally, from a lowly scribe into a wandering shade, immortal yet fading, bearing whispers the empire sought to bury under its facade of glory. Cumae clung to the Bay of Naples, an ancient Greek outpost with serpentine stone paths winding through lush olive groves and shrines to Apollo, the radiant sun god, yet wielder of the cruelest curses, his arrows scorching mortal flesh like midday blaze. I journeyed there at my patron senator's command, serving him like a loyal hound, transcribing his every murmur in the Senate's closed sessions amid incense smoke from bronze censers and the tang of sweat-soaked silk togas scented with rosewater. He tasked me with a leather pouch weighted by gleaming ori coins, sparkling like Fortuna's promise under sun, hoping to trade for prophecies of Egyptian bounties, Nile fields swollen with black silt, or Parthian border peace, where horsemen with recurved bows loomed like scythes. The trek from Rome to Cumae spanned 3 days, mounted along the Via Appia, our vaunted straight road of glossy black basalt, flanked by family tombs with white marble effigies of departed heroes. Each eve, I halted at roadside inns reeking of watered wine and overcharred mutton, eavesdropping on travelers' mutters of the cave woman, Sibyl, outliving gods, her form shriveled like drought-struck olive branches. The path to her lair twisted steeply, coiling like a serpent over basalt cliffs gleaming under relentless summer sun, Tyrrhenian winds bearing brine laced with wild herbs, thyme's sharp sting and oregano's bitter edge, evoking Greek feasts I'd savored at elite banquets. Each footfall crunched on jagged gravel, leather sandals chafing raw against skin, morning mist enshrouding legs like Hades' invisible fingers, icy seepage through thin toga folds. The cavern gaped before me like a dormant beast's maw, immense, shadowed, its stalactite-riddled ceiling dripping like fangs in the dim. Within, air chilled despite outer swelter, every step resounding like Tartarus shades' pleas, Greek ghosts howling for justice from Hades' grip. Scrolls suspended from the vault, etched in archaic Etruscan squiggles like venomous serpents, swayed gently like flayed pelts, and the odor, that odor, millennia-damp soil, desiccated ink from crumbling papyrus, and a cloying sweetness, putrid as long-forgotten meat in gloom, conjuring visions of neglected altars to Apollo. She huddled at the cavern's nadir, so diminutive amid dense shadow I almost overlooked her on her worn stone seat, flesh blanching like laurel leaves withered post-harvest, eyes abyssal hollows glinting beneath creased parchment hide. As Ovid limbs in Metamorphoses, a poet whose lines I'd copied by tremulous candle in my study, quill drips spattering marble floors. Apollo wooed her in maidenhood, raven-haired and voice honeyed as lyre strings plucked by masters. He vowed lifespan matching Kumai's shore sands, millions, billions of pearly grains shimmering sun-kissed, if she'd surrender to solar embrace. She cupped the grains in tiny palms, tallying with innocent smile, yet rebuffed him, for fealty to loftier deities, or dread of the god whose touch incinerated all. Apollo, spurned in scorching fury, upheld the longevity pledge but warped it to direst malediction, millennia of existence, body dwindling incrementally, till Cumae's youths jabbed, "Sibyl, what do you crave?" And she'd wheeze, "Death, death." She peddled 9 prophetic tomes to King Tarquinius Superbus, Rome's final monarch, of whom I'd read in annals, bearded and gaze keen as blades, slashing price from 9 to 6, then 3, torching the rest before him, flames hissing papyrus, smoke ascending like dissipating spirits. He acquired the trio, enshrining them as Sibylline books, Greek hexameters veiled as mist, poured over in perils, plagues, sieges, eclipses, by quindecimviri priests immolating horn-gilt white bulls to avert dooms divined. "You seek to purchase tomorrow?" she croaked as I advanced, voice no mortal utterance but fisher-whistling gale. Desiccate as wind-tumbled foliage on barren clay, reverberating cavern-wide like forsaken gods' imprecations. I genuflected on frigid stone, knees throbbing through gossamer toga, elevating the ori satchel as altar oblation, gold-glinting feeble ingress light, and recited my charge. Harvests teeming to quell plebeian bread riots, Parthian frontiers tranquil for merchants hauling silk and pearls unscathed by raiders. She chortled, a lipless crease spasm on her furrowed visage like drought-cracked olive bark, and tendered her ultimate scroll, gossamer thin nigh dissolving in my clasp, jaundiced papyrus veined with Etruscan coils like deathbed capillaries. "Peruse it, Lucius," she bade, tone now crashing like Cumaean breakers on basalt. And as I unfurled beneath my torch's faltering blaze, flame guttering, smoke eye-stinging, Etruscan glyphs cavorted, tableau of Rome splintering neath self-stilettos, laurel desiccating to dust whirled in desert gusts, Caesars tumbling not to German or Pictish blades, but innate blaze from emperors' deliria, superstitious maledictions from own augurs, cataclysmic ash from wrathful craters, enigmatic vapors engulfing frontier cohorts. Agony radiated from fingertips, not corporeal laceration or sear, but abyssal soul torch. Memories lapped by languid inferno. She contacted me then, talon-parched digit on my forehead like winter-gnawed bough, chill as cavern stone in solstice frost, murmuring ear-close, exhalation earth-dank and antique ink. Henceforth you'll rove as I, timeless yet daily dimming. Laurel shall sear upon your pate, and you'll proclaim shadows roam concealed neath specious splendor. For this realm heeds naught my utterance. They dread alone, and that dread their sepulchre. I quivered, scroll tumbling from grasp, skittering stoneward like a stray wraith, querying in terror-hoarsened timbre. Why me? I'm mere amanuensis, spectre in fiscal gears, no pontiff or potentate. She cackled anew, peal echoing like corvid dirge from remote Vesuvius, retorting, "Precisely hence, Lucius. Emperors heed, then forget. Augurs declaim, then distort. You'll chronicle, not with ink, but exhalation, for zephyrs to bear, that posterity hearken if daring." I quitted the grotto with scroll secreted in tunic, psyche swirling like post-Falernian revelry haze, and return via Appia morphed sluggish nightmare. Nightly halts birthed dermal shifts, subtle pleats blooming eye corners like brine-soaked vellum, locks silvering not by annums but Tiberine wintry blasts from Alps chill. Credulity eluded me initially, a rasping guffaw cavitied like raven obsequy, departing scroll-clutched, deeming senile hag's mummery, longevity eclipsing humanity's form. Yet that gloaming, Appia bound under stellar vigil like divine scrutiny, integument truly transmuted. Creases proliferated from ocular rims like inky vellum blots. Slumber freighted not evanescent reveries, but crystalline apparitions. Nero's lyre ablaze clutched, conflagration devouring aureate strings, Vesuvius disgorging obsidian flurry upon vibrant Pompeii. Ninth Legion tramping Britannic haze, cornets receding to void like engulfed essences. Sibyl augured no boons from deities. She unveiled viscera decay, Fisher's empire masked with verdant laurel and forum pageants. She divined Rome's demise not external adversaries, axe-wielding Teutons in umbrageous woods or Parthian recurves, but endogenous superstition. Our prop on her dicta over fissuring statutes, plebeian hearts, Caesars corrupted by scepter. Pontiffs perused Sibylline codices in Capitoline sanctum, holocausting gilt-horned bovines to placate during pestilences or aridities. Yet her edicts transmuted no kismet, mere harbingers like nocturnal flares, and we spurned, tomorrow's terror eclipsing today's. In Virgil's Aeneid, epic I'd transcribed for senatorial recitals, quill ink pattering veined marble, she escorts mythic founder Aeneas through Cumaean oracle to Hades' copses, clutching lustrous golden bow to commune Anchises, glimpsing Trojan lineage's predestined splendor. Yet I fathomed legend's nether. Her auguries, erst saviors, like dictating Viantine rite mimicry to vanquish 396 BC siege, or averting Second Punic presages via edifice per her behest, now burdens. Emperors akin Augustus hoarded Sibylline jealously, incinerating rivals' duplicates, consulting veiled lunar rites amid sensorial fumes, veiling augural countenances. Gradually, we contorted her dicta, construing Campanian tremors as Vulcan's ire, eclipses Luna's perfidy, oblivious core missive, Rome's perdition from endogenous arrogance, self-devouring via avarice and credulity, not celestial ire. Tarquin's haggle mocked. We bartered verity shards cheaply, torching remnants, begetting self-obscuration amid encroaching shadow beneath laurel. Now, perambulating Cumaean vestiges, that oracle fissure a tourist chasm for arcane apparatuses flares. Lightning like Jupiterine bolts, I palpate her imprecation in every hoar filament, every vellum-folded dermis. She vended residual sextet to gales, dispersing like errant Psyches or Neapolitan Gulf, and Rome squandered those caveats, supplanting with rapacious seers and deranged autocrats. Her arcanum, auguries redeem not, they anathematize via stark veracity, compelling fate's mirror gaze revealing self-fissures. Empire expired not frontier savages, but futurity phobia, clinging susurrations over praxis, permitting credulity erode credence like woodworm olive timbers, and you, auditing Zephyr's murmur surviving Cumaean olives, brine earth bouquet, dare unspool your scroll, or consign its paling to gales like Sibyl's integument, permitting laurel shade proliferation sans caveat. The imprecation mere Zephyr, insidious unseen yet pertinacious dimming essence pre-osseous grasp, yet shadows densified, ponderabler, ash coagulating mid-breaths, murmuring from lithic barrows abyssal. The third secret, the ghosts of Pompeii, ebon snow descending midsummer pall, interring teeming berg, essences beseeching sifting volcanic powder, admonishing deities' wrath even for our spurious laurel. The third secret, the ghosts of Pompeii. Not restless spirits rattling chains in Greek legends fashion, but breaths frozen mid-gasp, faces contorted in ash, murmuring through volcanic dust like a curse from the earth's furious core. In 79 AD, 15 years after Nero's inferno scarred Rome's heart, the god of the mountain, or perhaps Jupiter himself, enraged by our sins, erupted in cataclysm, entombing a thriving city beneath a collective shroud. I was there. Lucius was there, delivering missives to Pliny the Elder. That great scholar, uncle to a friend of mine, his Messinum villa stuffed with scrolls rivaling Alexandria's lost glory. It was a serene summer morning when I rode along Naples Bay, sea breezes wafting grilled fish from markets and bloom scents from vineyard bowers. Pompeii pulsed with life, mosaic-floored villas depicting gods in revelry, steam-shrouded public baths where men bantered under hot sprays, bakeries puffing loaves from Egyptian wheat ovens. I'd visited before, jotting trade ledgers, Vesuvian vintages tart as unripe figs, Nile bread fluffy with imported yeast, frescoes of illicit trysts adorning lupanar walls where laughter echoed like temple bells. But that dawn, the sky warped, not storm clouds brewing from the Tyrrhenian, but a titanic smoke pillar from Vesuvius's crest. That gentle mountain we dubbed for its verdant slopes of grapevines and pine groves, snow-capped in winter like Jupiter's snowy beard. Pliny the Younger, in twin epistles to Tacitus, letters I'd later transcribe in trembling hand, ink blurring on vellum, likens it to a pine tree in common form, with a tall trunk and branches spreading wide, white vapor coiling skyward miles high, then fanning like a dead canopy. Earth quaked first, subtle as distant cavalry trot, then fiercer, jolting my mount to frantic whinnies. Ash commenced falling, not pristine snow but black flakes hot as forge embers, pumice shards light as sea foam yet razor-edged, slicing skin like obsidian knives. We fled, Pliny the Elder, curiosity's thrall as natural philosopher, helming galleys from Messinum to probe the natural phenomenon up close. I trailed a horse, dispatches clutched like talismans, but Pompeii's avenues turned gray hellscapes. Ash blanketed thick, clogging mouths, nostrils, lungs, syrupy as scorched honey, suffocating as battlefield pyres. Shouts erupted omnidirectional, matrons clutching babes bursting from patisseries, mouths agape in silenced howls, forge masters, hammers gripped, crumpling as roofs caved under troth's weight. Pyroclastic surges, Pliny's fiery currents, cascaded downslope, furnace blasts fusing metal, snapshotting all in instants. I sheltered in a vintner's cellar beneath a magnate's atrium, oaken hatch bolted, yet ash infiltrated fissures, flour and air like spoiled meal. I heard murmurs, not gales, but Latin litanies choked. Jupiter, absolve, Pompeii, why us? When the inaugural surge struck, it wasn't flame but blistering gale, hurling stones and cinders at gallop speeds, scouring boulevards, petrifying fugitives halfway, families mid-repast, goblets wine-kissed, gladiators sword-curved in hand, visages warped in mute shrieks, urchins huddled tabling, tiny fists bunched in maternal hems. Ash interred all, not shallowly, but meters deep, sixfold in places, preserving as infernal tableau. Pliny the Elder perished on Stabiae's strand, rescuing comrades, alveoli ash-clogged. The younger endured, penning sky blacker than noontide void, lit soul by flames. I clawed free post-triad days, husk hardened, and Pompeii evanesced, naught but pallid masks, orbs agog upward, querying why. Archaeologists millennia hence exhumed them, plaster pores recasting voids, unveiling quotidian vignettes, charred loaves in ovens, amatory graffiti scrawled walls, sesterces spilled from strongboxes. But I beheld phantoms, not poltergeists, but essences ensnared, sowing dustward when Vesuvius's dormant zephyrs stir, that slumbering peak, rousable any time. Calamity wasn't happenstance, divine missive for our transgressions, Nero's arson hubris, Sibyl's scorned auguries. Empire presumed dominion over Natra via aqueducts and fanes, but Pompeian ash evinced frailty. Laurel crowns no bulwark 'gainst volcanic exhalations. That cataclysm scarred not mere flesh and stone. It etched empire's fragility into my fading hide. A reminder that Rome's vaunted eternity crumbled under God's caprice. We Romans, conquerors of Gaul's wilds, builders of spans bridging Rhine torrents, fancied mastery over elements, channeling alpine freshets to forum fountains, quelling Nile floods with dikes for Caesar's granaries. Yet Vesuvius mocked, a slumberous mound, cloaked in fertile loam birthing amphorae of prized falernum, harbored fury brewing eons. Pliny the Elder, polymath whose Naturalis Historia I'd consulted for senatorial queries, tomes on minerals, beasts, stars, sailed toward doom with sails billowing, quill ever ready to catalogue. His nephew's letters, dispatched post-eruption, paint horror. Ash like pillows raining, blanketing roofs to collapse, birds plummeting mid-flight, wings leaden. I recall the prelude, arriving Pompeii's Porta Marina, gates carved lions rampant, to deliver scrolls on tax allotments for Herculaneum vintners, parchments crisp, sealed wax impressions of eagle standards. Streets bustled, vendors hawking garum sauce pungent as rotted fish guts, children dodging litters-born slaves sweat glistened, frescoed villas peeking tablinum glimpses of Olympian banquets. Quakes presaged, minor tremors months prior, dismissed as Vulcan's forge hammers, libations poured to Sate. That fated morn, as I stabled mount near Forum's basilica, columns Ionic grace under cerulean vault, ground heaved gentle, amphorae rattling tabernae shelves. Another shake, folk grumbled, resuming commerce. I'd felt similar in Rome's Subura, blaming Tiberine floods. Dispatching errand to Pliny's Misenum villa, across bays azure, galleys slicing waves foam-crested. I rode via Herculaneum's shore, villas terraced cliffs overlooking Vesuvius serene, vineyards terracing slopes like emerald steps to heaven. Pliny greeted warmly, library redolent vellum and beeswax, scrolls piled like legionary pila. Lucius, timely, your ledgers align my queries on Campanian yields. We supped octopus-grilled olive oil, discoursing Pliny's admiralty duties, nephew's rhetoric tutelage. Twilight brought unease, horizon bruised, mountain's profile haloed haze faint. Ill omen, I ventured. Pliny chuckled. Natura's jest, perhaps sulfur vents. Night deepened quakes, bedchambers shuddering like chariot ruts. Dawn broke ashen, smoke column pierced clouds, pine-shaped Perjunger's quill, base thunderous, apex feathering winds. Panic rippled Misenum. Pliny, philosopher's zeal aflame, marshaled fleet. Observe, document, history demands. I demurred, bound Pompeii ward for supplemental missives, but joined galley exodus, bay choppy foam-flecked. Approaching, horror unveiled. Pompeii's walls, samnite stone buttressed, gates yawning, shrouded gray veil, ash drifting languid like polluted snow. Docking makeshift, I dashed inland, sandals ash slippery, lungs acrid with sulfur bite. Avenues, once vibrant with thermopolum counters steaming lentils, lupinar giggles muffled brothel doors, clogged fugitives, plebeians clutching satchels, patricians litter-born slaves straining. "To gates!" bellowed centurions. But pyroclastics loomed, surges avalanched, 100-mile gales hurling boulders house-sized, roofs pulverizing like thunderclap. I bolted via Stabian thoroughfare, baths left steaming vacant, mosaics Alexander victorious slick under troth. Past Temple Isis, priests fled altars incense snuffed. Ash thickened, visibility arm's length, particles grating eyes bloodshot. "Sanctuary," I gasped, diving taberna cellar, vintner's hole, amphorae ranked like soldiers, air vinegary ferment. Hatch slammed, darkness absolute save torch sputter, but fissures wept dust, coating tongue gritty sweet char. Above, cacophony, roofs groaning collapse, screams truncated gasps, masonry avalanching like God's dice. Then whispers, not zephyrs, but smothered pleas. "Domine, miserere, Pompeii." Latin snuffed mid-syllable, as if ash gagged tongues. Hours blurred eternities, surges thrice assailed, heat waves singeing nostrils, pressure eardrums popping. I clawed vellum dispatches, ink-smudging prayers to Mercury swift-footed. Dawn's third, silence reigned, post-climax hush, Vesuvius spent, plume dissipated dawn's pallor. Emerging, Pompeii transfigured mausoleum, streets vanished under meters deep blanket, facades skeletal, populace petrified tableau. I stumbled atrium villas, peristyles colonnaded silent, beholding tableau, woman cradling infant, mouths agape voiceless ululations, arms outstretched futile, baker clutching sesterces till, loaves oven-trapped carbonized, gladiator mid-lunge, net-entangled pumice, visage rictus defiance. Not corpses decayed, but voids ash-preserved, plaster-poured moderns recast as casts, ghosts solidified, eyes imploring from plaster orbs. Whispers persisted, brushing effigies, dust sifted, carrion sibilants. "Roma, cur nos derelinquisti?" Rome, why forsake us? I wept, toga ash-caked shroud, unburying comrade's villa, frescoes nereids faded gray, triclinium table mid-repast, goblets overturned vinum pooled congealed. Catastrophes toll. 2 millennia buried 16,000 souls, Herculaneum vaporized surges, Stabii inundated mudflows. Pliny Elder asphyxiated beachward, lungs pumice-choked. Survivors fled bayward, tales traumatizing. Empire reeled. Titus, Vespasian's heir, dispatched aid, grain ships, architects rebuilding, yet whispers festered. Vulcan's vengeance for Nero's theater desecrations, bacchanal suppressions. Augurs consulted Sibyllines anew, immolating calves' gilded horns, but ash mocked. Rome's aqueducts spanned continents, legions tamed Dacian wilds, yet one mountain's belch eclipsed all. Laurel, wreaths crowning Flavian arches, Titus's triumph processions, seemed tinsel gainst geologic ire, our vaunted ingenium engineering marvels like Ponce Emilius bridging Tiber floods, futile versus tectonic whim. That ash veil endures my curse, Lucius's undying pall. Wandering Pompeii's excavations, UNESCO wards, tourists treading via Strabonus under glass-domed roofs. I palpate phantoms chill, effigies whispering zephyr-stirred, Roma, quer nos? Calamity admonishes ephemerality. Empire, for all roads radiating Capitoline hub, aqueducts quenching million throats, Colossia blood-soaked spectacles, buckles under caprice divine. We presumed pact with gods, sacrifices fattened, temples gilded, yet Vesuvius evinced hubris's toll. Laurel veils no sepulchre from earth's maw. Moderns, unearthing villas frescoed Priapic, marvel preservation, bodies flash-frozen 300 degrossing surges, brains vitrified glassine, yet ignore moral, progress illusions, be it Roman concrete or silicon circuits, crumbles cataclysm. Pompeii's ghosts beseech not pity, but heed. When ground trembles, listen whispers ere ash seals lips. Ash cools, yet mists engulf whole, swallowing without trace or epitaph. The final secret? The lost Legion 9, marching Britannia's fogs, vanishing spectre-like, no clash, no cairn. The final secret, the lost Legion 9. Not a heroic defeat with clashing steel and triumphant barbarian war cries echoing across bloodied fields, but a silent dissolution into Britannia's mists, like shades slipping into night's unyielding embrace without a farewell or a grave. Legio 9. Hispana, the 9th Legion from the Spanish provinces, with shields burnished to mirror brightness and eagle standards gleaming like Jupiter's own talons, had served Rome for over 2 centuries, from Pompey's campaigns in Hispania's sun-baked hills to the savage drenchings of Britannia's northern marches. They were rough-hewn men, scarred from Iberian vineyard skirmishes and Gallic ambushes, their laughter coarse around campfire embers, yet bound by iron discipline as unyielding as the Via Appia itself. In 120 AD, under Hadrian's watchful eye, the emperor with his brooding gaze and wall-building obsessions, they vanished. No records, no cairns, no explanations, only theories whispered through annals like ghosts in the fog. Slaughtered by Pictish raiders in Caledonian wilds, redeployed to Judea for Bar Kokhba's revolt sans notation, or disbanded in shame for mutiny. But I, Lucius, know a darker truth. Britannia was no land of blades, but of mists and Celtic incantations, where druids summoned shadows to devour legions whole. Iberacum, York in the tongue of later ages, squatted on Britannia's northern frontier, a fortress town of timber barracks and stone granaries huddled against the wind-swept moors, where rain fell sideways like the tears of conquered gods. I arrived there as legate, bearing Hadrian's sealed edicts, papyrus rolls crisp with imperial wax, eagle embossed crimson, commanding the 9th to quell unrest among the Brigantes tribes, those tattooed hill folk who painted their faces blue and worshipped in sacred groves of twisted yew. The year was 120, Hadrian fresh from quelling Jewish zealots in Judea, his mind fixed on borders, walls not of conquest, but containment, stretching ear to ear across the isle like a scar to bind the empire's fraying hem. The 9th had garrisoned Eboracum since Agricola's campaigns in the 80s AD, when they crushed Caledonian hordes at Mons Graupius, 5,000 souls in close order formation, Pila raining like iron hail, swords carving through woad-smeared flesh under eagle's shadow. Founded by Pompey in 65 BC from Spanish recruits, hardy men versed in vineyard terraces and mountain passes, they'd marched through Gaul's mud, tamed Dacia's gold mines, and etched their name in Britannia's peat with forts like Inchtuthil, abandoned half-built when Domitian recalled them south. By Hadrian's reign, they were veterans, centurions with torque necklaces from Gallic spoils, legionaries tattooed with Iax's numeral on forearms corded from pilum drills. Their camp sprawled 50 acres, Principia shrine to Mars smoking with incense, Hospitalia echoing coughs from marsh fevers, baths steaming against eternal damp. I dismounted at the Porta Praetoria, grand gateway flanked by watchtowers, sentries in larica segmentata glinting rain-slick, pouch heavy with dispatches, toga sodden under oilskin cloak, the air thick with peat smoke and horse dung's tang. Quintus Minucius, legatus of the 9th, a grizzled centurion promoted for valor at Mons Graupius, beard silver-streaked like Hadrian's own, eyes sharp as gladius tips, greeted me in the praetorium, warmed by Hippocast's glow, maps unrolled on oak tables showing Caledonian tracks snaking like veins. "Lucius, from the emperor's quill?" he grunted, pouring mulsum, honeyed wine warming my veins against chill, while aides stoked braziers crackling resinous pine. I unrolled the edicts. "Advance north, pacify Brigantes' holdouts harassing supply lines. No quarter for Druid agitators. Burn their groves if need." Minucius nodded, jaw set like basalt. "We've bloodied Picts before. Sticky work in the fog, but Roma invicta." That eve, over boar roast fatty with apples and Senation halls clamor, legionaries dicing knucklebones, singing ribald ditties of Hispania's girls, he regaled Agricola's glories. 84 AD, we pinned Caledonians 'gainst the hill, 30,000 barbarians breaking like waves on our testudo. Eagles flew high that day. I listened, quill scratching notes for Senate reports, the wine loosening tongues, but unease gnawed. Britannia's mists weren't mere weather. They were the island's breath, laced with druid whispers turning men mad. Dawn broke gray, skies leaden as Caledonian shields, and the 9th marched, 5,000 strong, a serpent of iron uncoiling from Eberocham's gates. Optio's whistle pierced drizzle, hobnailed Caligay crunching gravel in thunderous cadence, shields locked in overlapping boss, Pila shafts glinting like forest spears. Standards aloft, silver eagle on thunderbolt perch, banners silk-embroidered 9 Hispana fluttering damp, scarlet vexilla snapping wolf-head crests. Minucius rode vanguard, transverse crested helmet nodding, while Cornican's blew advance, deep, resonant Roma Invicta, booming across moors, scattering curlews to wheeling cries. I trailed rearguard a horse, dispatch satchel thumping saddle, cloak whipping wind-lashed, inhaling the reek, wet wool, oiled leather, manure churned mud. Columns snaked via Dare Street, our engineered scar through peat bogs, mile castles dotting like watchful eyes, flanked heather purpled and gorse thorny, tors rising mist-shrouded like druid altars. Banter echoed, "Britannia's softer than Hispania's heat, past the Posca." Legionaries swigged vinegar water from canteens, jesting of homeward sails laden Spanish gold. By midday, rain eased to mist, tendrils coiling ankles like spectral hounds, and we crested Stanwicks Rise, Brigantes Oppida smoldering from prior raids, thatch roofs acrid pyres, deeper north, terrain turned treacherous, bogs sucking boots, streams peat-tinted swirling ankles, ancient trackways, Celtic holloways worn barrows, vanishing under bracken. Corvus calls mocked from twisted thorns, and Minucius halted at a ridge, scouts returning mud-splattered. "Tracks fresh, sir. Pictish warbands, maybe 200, circling like wolves." Orders barked. Form testudo, advance cautious. Mist thickened, not common fog, but dense pall reeking brine from North Sea ghosts and wild earth musk, visibility shrinking to spear throw. I spurred alongside, heart thudding like marching drums, air clammy, skin prickling. Legion snaked forward, shields clinking rhythm, Pila butts thumping turf, but sounds muffled, footsteps fading echoes, banter hushed to mutters. Then, the swallow, mist engulfed like living shroud, coiling columns, parting brief glimpses, red crests bobbing, then swallowing whole. "Titan ranks!" Minucius roared, voice distant as if underwater. I called, "Quintus, visibility nil!" Horns blared, cornu wails warped, brass lamenting through vapor, footfalls receded. First vanguards crunch, then files dissolving drip by drip, till silence absolute save my mount's snort and heart's thunder. Panic clawed. I dismounted, leading horse by reins slick palm sweat, plunging after, mist parting reluctant veils revealing naught. Empty moor, heather trampled, but legions gone. "Ninth! Legio Nime!" bellowed futile, voice devoured. Whispers answered, not wind, but sibilance. "Fratres! Ubi?" Brothers, where? Faint Latin-laced Celtic burr, as if ranks echoed own dread. Deeper, fog cloyed throat coppery, vision tunneling gray, and relics emerged. Pilum snapped midshaft, iron head earth gouged, Galea helmet tumbled furca spiked, cheek guard dented blow unseen, Balteus belt unbuckled, bronze phalaray Pictish hammer marks. No blood, no bodies, naught but abandoned gear, as if earth yawned, gulping men mid-stride. Druidry? Those robed enchanters, faces lime-washed, chanting torques around oak wassails, summoning Morrigan's crows or Cernunnos' horns to bend mists as veils? Or Pictish guile, blue-painted ambuscade, silent arrows felling before clash? I scavenged fragments, eagle standards drooping wing, torn from pole, clutching like talisman, whispers swelling, Roma. Adiuva nos, help us, please, legionary, terror-frayed. Hours bled eternities, sun unseen, compass moss-ward futile in uniform gray. Stumbled barrow mound, Celtic tumulus grass-tufted, stone circle sentinel, and collapsed. Horse nuzzling, fog-blind, reins looped wrist. Night fell unseen, stars veiled, only whispers choral, cornu strains distorted, as if ranks marched phantom parade, fading loops, dawn's pallor pierced faint, mist thinning reluctant, revealing desolation. Moor pocked abandoned packs, canteens vinegar spilled, Caligay pairs bootless. No ninth, 5,000 vanished sans trace, Eberacum's garrison hollowed. Returned staggering, relics bundled cloak, Minucius's torque necklace muddied among Centurion's last grasp. Hadrian's missives unheeded. Wall commenced sans legion, mile after mile turf and stone bulwark. Mile castles vigilant against voids. Theories proliferated. Cassius Dio, analyst I'd meet decades on, Scribe's Pictish slaughter, ambush in Caledonian passes, heads spiked wattle fences. Others posit Judea redeployment. Ninth bolstering against Bar Kokhba's zealots 132 AD, records lost revolts chaos, or mutiny, Hadrian disbanding for disloyalty, dispersing to oblivion. But I attest mist's malice. Britannia, unconquered wilds, harbored shadows druid forged, mists as weapons devouring resolve. Legion perished not valiantly, they strayed, and that abyss gnawed empire inward, transmuting frontiers to mass graves. That vanishing scarred not flesh alone, it festered paranoia, empire's slow poison, convincing Rome her grandeur hollow, shadows self-cast lengthening. We'd spanned Mediterranean galleys, triremes, aqueducts threading Alps' spines, legions taming Rhine's barbarians. Yet Ninth's eclipse bespoke fragility. Borders bled men to voids, laurel crowns no shield 'gainst intangible dread. Hadrian's wall, 80-mile rampart, 15-foot breadth, turrets vigilant, rose not conquest's boast, but terror's bulwark. Mile castles housing vexallations ever watchful, vallum ditches scar earth eternal. Whispers proliferated, senate halls echoed cursed isle, provinces hoarded legions homeward, taxes swelled funding garrisons phantasmal foes, paranoia metastasized, emperors scrutinized augurs for omens, purges felled suspected druid sympathizers, borders ossified walls, not bridges. Ninth's loss catalyzed retraction. Hadrian abandoning Mesopotamia, fortifying Danube, empire coiling defensive, laurel withering under siege phobia. Wandering Hadrian's remnant, crumbling Mile Castle 39. Tourists tracing stones, iPhone lit, I hear cornets faint, Zephyr-born pleas. Roma, secur nobis. Military enigmas birthed not unity, but fracture. Fear owns silhouette, projecting barbarians every mist. Moderns debate. Radar scans moors for mass graves, LiDAR unveiling lost forts, yet ignore moral. Empires crumble introspection, not incursion. Paranoia devours from within, as Celtic fog legion. Legion lived not. They wandered, and that specter eroded Rome. Frontiers, sepulchres collective. Mists dissipate, yet shadows linger. Those are the shadows beneath the laurel. Nero's fire scorching dreams to cinders. The Sibyl's words withering flesh like autumn leaves. Pompeii's ash freezing breaths in eternal silence. The Ninth Legion's mist devouring souls without a trace or a tomb. They are no mere tales of yesteryear, dust-gathering scrolls in some forgotten library. No. They whisper across the ages, through weathered stone and the very blood pulsing in our veins. I, Lucius, still wander their remnants, my skin fading like the Sibyl's own, parchment thin and etched with time's indifferent script. Yet my memories burn fierce as the Palatine's blaze. Rome did not fall to the barbarian hordes crashing against her gates like waves on a crumbling shore. No Alaric's Visigoths or Attila's Huns with their howling axes. She crumbled from within, devoured by these very shadows, the mad ambitions of emperors playing God, the superstitious chains binding priests and kings alike, the indifferent fury of the earth itself, and the enigmatic voids that swallow even the mightiest legions whole. And you? When the wind stirs through our modern ruins, cracked concrete monuments to forgotten wars and gleaming towers that pierce the sky like arrogant spears, do you hear them? New secrets, stirring in the dark, waiting to be unearthed. If you dare follow me, the laurel remains green, but the shadows run deeper than ever. Veil, and beware your own dreams. Let me trace those scars once more, like fingers over the puckered wounds on a gladiator's hide, each one a testament to Rome's hidden frailty. First, Nero's burning dream. That boy emperor, crowned with gold and delusion, who strung his lyre amid the screams of a city reduced to pyre. I fled those flames, tasting ash on my tongue like bitter prophecy, watching as the eternal city, Roma Aeterna we called her, twisted into a forge of Vulcan's wrath. The fire did not rage for 6 days by accident. It was the spark of unchecked power, a monarch's folly to remake the world in his image, torching slums to birth a golden palace that gilds no grave. Domus Aurea stands no more, its lakes drained and statues toppled, but the echo lingers, in the charred ledgers I once copied, in the silenced cries of Subura's forgotten poor. That scar reminds us, power, when it dreams too wildly, consumes the dreamer first. Then, the Sibyl's prophecy, that withered oracle in Kume's chill embrace, her voice a wind through cracked stone, trading eternity for a curse of endless fading. I knelt before her, auri heavy in my pouch like chains, and she pressed her final scroll into my trembling hands, its words searing my soul before my skin. Dephobe saw not just futures, but fractures, the empire's laurel leaves curling at the edges from the rot within, poisoned by our own reliance on divine whispers over mortal deeds. The Sibylline books, those 3 precious tomes Tarquin bought with a king's ransom, guided us through plagues and sieges, yet we twisted their hexameters into excuses for inaction, burning calves on altars while our borders frayed. Her touch lingers on me still, my flesh paling as hers did, a walking testament to superstition's snare. It binds tighter than iron, whispering salvation while weaving the noose. Third, the Ghosts of Pompeii. That summer's end in 79 AD, when Vesuvius awoke like a slumbering titan, belching ash and fire to cloak a city in gray oblivion. I raced those streets, dispatches clutched like fragile lifelines, past matrons frozen mid-embrace with their babes, bakers with coins spilling from rigid fists, their faces cast in plaster voids by later hands, eyes wide in questions the gods never answered. Pliny the Elder's curiosity carried him to his doom on Stabiai's shore, lungs filled with pumice like a philosopher drowning in knowledge, while I huddled in a vintner's cellar, the air thickening to suffocating meal, whispers of choked Latin prayers seeping through the cracks. Jupiter, why us? The pyroclastic surges did not discriminate. Patrician villas with their Nereid frescoes crumbled as swiftly as plebeian tabernae steaming lentils. That scar is the earth's own indictment. Our aqueducts and arches, marvels of human will, mean nothing to a mountain's indifferent roar. Nature does not bow to laurel, it buries it. And last, the lost Legion 9. That vanishing in Britannia's eternal fogs, 120 AD, when 5,000 Hispana veterans, eagle standards high, cornu blasts defying the rain, marched north from Eboracum and dissolved into whispers. I trailed them as Hadrian's envoy, edicts sealed in my satchel like unspoken dooms, the mist coiling like druid serpents, reeking of salt and wild peat, swallowing ranks one by one until only echoes remained. Fractured pila in the mud, helms dented by unseen blows, and faint cornet strains looping like pleas from Tartarus. No Pictish warband claimed their scalps. No Judean revolt absorbed their blades unnoted. The island itself conspired, its Celtic shades Bendic vapor to veil and devour. Hadrian built his wall in their absence, a 73-mile bulwark of turf and stone, mile castles staring into the void. But the scar festers, an empire's reach, once boundless, recoiling in fear of its own reflection in the fog. These are the scars upon the laurel's skin, Lucius reflects. Not gashes from foreign blades, but self-inflicted wounds, festering unseen until the green facade peels away to reveal the rot beneath. I tell these not to instill fear, though fear is their sharpest blade, honed on the whetstone of hindsight, but to remember. Rome was never invincible. She was a colossus of marble and iron, aqueducts threading mountains like veins of divine favor, legions carving the world to our map, yet hollow at the core. Undermined by shadows, she birthed herself. The fire of Nero was no external blaze, but the conflagration of unchecked ambition, a Caesar dreaming himself Apollo while his city choked on smoke. The Sibyl's words were no alien curse, but the echo of our own superstitions, chaining us to altars when swords and laws might have sufficed. Pompeii's ash fell not from capricious gods alone, but from our hubris, assuming the earth knelt to our engineering, blind to the slumbering furies beneath our feet. And the ninth's mist, not a barbarian's trick, but the paranoia of an empire staring too long into the unknown, seeing monsters in every shadow it cast. The shadows beneath the laurel are a mirror, cracked and smoke-veiled, reflecting not just Rome's fall, but our own precarious perch. Look into it and see yourself in the leader who wields power like a lyre, strumming glory while the foundations crack, in the faithful who cling to omens and scrolls, ignoring the fractures in the here and now, in the builder who raises towers against the storm, forgetting the ground shifts, in the explorer who marches into the fog, haunted by the fear of what he cannot conquer. Rome did not crumble to outer foes. The Vandals and Goths merely kicked at ruins already hollowed. She fell to inner darkness, the poison of absolute rule, the paralysis of blind faith, the hubris against nature's whim, the dread of the unseen that turns borders into prisons. These scars whisper across millennia, through the Colosseum's echoing arches where lions once roared, the Forum's cracked pavement where senators schemed, the Appian Way's tombs lining the road like silent witnesses. They warn that empires, be they of stone and sword or steel and circuit, end not with a bang of invasion, but a whimper of self-doubt, the slow seep of shadows eroding the light we thought eternal. Yet in that mirror, there is no despair without a spark of remembrance. I wandered Rome's birth as a scribe inking senators' vanities, fled her pyres as a shadow in the smoke, buried her dead under ash and mist, and still I walk, cursed to bear these tales like laurel wreaths heavy with thorns. The Sibyl taught me that immortality is no gift, but a vigil, to speak truths the powerful bury, to unearth scars the victors forget. Rome's lesson endures because it is universal. Power corrupts not by accident, but by invitation. Superstition blinds not the ignorant alone, but the wise who fear change. Nature reminds us of our smallness, not in wrath, but in quiet inevitability, and mystery, that fog-shrouded unknown, tests not our strength, but our humility. Today, as I trace Hadrian's wall under skies as gray as that fateful mist, or stand amid Pompeii's plaster ghosts, where tourists snap images like fleeting prayers, I see the same shadows in our world. Leaders dreaming golden houses on borrowed time, faiths twisting ancient words to modern chains, cities built on fault lines we ignore, frontiers redrawn in fear of the other we scarcely understand. The laurel may regrow, green and triumphant in parades and anthems, but the roots delve into darkness, and only by facing it do we truly honor the fallen. And so, the wind shifts from the east now, carrying hints of sands beyond Parthia, where new empires rise and old ones fade into whispers. Perhaps another secret stirs there, a lost scroll from Alexandria's ashes, a druid's final incantation etched in Caledonian stone, or the echo of a Caesar's unspoken regret. I still wander, my steps light as mist on the Tiber's banks, my voice a thread in the weave of time, fading yet unbroken. Will you hear the next whisper? Dare to follow the trail of laurel leaves, scattered but pointing ever onward. If the shadows call to you as they do to me, step into the fog. Veil, wanderer. And may your own laurel shield you from the depths it conceals.